Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hobby Homestead, to the actual Hobby Homestead. You would have just seen a video come out on my channel where I was at the Hobby Homestead extension. That's my mom's place, 10 minutes down the road, and it is rural and it gives us a lot of opportunity to expand. But here is our primary growing space, our primary homestead. This is where we have all our established gardens. We've been here since 2001 and we do most of our growing and most of my content here. It is the first full week of June right now, and wow, has the weather just done a 180. May this year was so cold for us. The average temperature was 11 degrees Celsius, and we had multiple frost warnings after our last frost date. We had, I don't know, a dozen nights that were about 5 degrees Celsius. It was really cold. Normally, I plant out all of my warm weather crops in like the second week of May. Some of them I would push to the third week of May, like ginger and loofahs, cucurbits, that kind of thing. This year, man, I'm still getting seeds in the ground. I'm still getting plants in the ground. I did plant some loofahs in the third week of May, and one of them died. I have a backup that's going in the ground now. That's kind of the thing. If you want to extend your season with warm weather crops, it's always going to be a risk. It's always going to be a gamble. And if you don't have a greenhouse or something to put things into, then you are at the mercy of the climate, the environment, the weather. So the forecast right now, the 2-week forecast, looks like summer weather. And that makes me feel confident to go ahead and re-sow some of the things that did not come up because it was so cold, like beans and cucumbers. I have to get so many things sowed today, corn. And then on top of that, there's just like the regular garden maintenance. So even though we've had a cold spring, it just hasn't been pleasant. It hasn't been good for growing a lot of things in the garden. Some things love this cooler spring weather, but things that we're getting excited for, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, all the summer crops, those things haven't done well yet. And we're just now getting into warmer weather where things are going to start to do better. And I'm already thinking about when the heat is done and the cooler weather sets in again in the fall. This is when I start thinking about the fall garden, the very beginning of June. There are some things that take a good 100 days from seed to harvest that we can still plant now and have them in the fall garden. The problem here with fall gardening is that the daylight actually starts to get too weak, or the sunlight gets too weak for things to grow. So even though we may not get a freeze until early October, depending on the year, things just aren't growing much from mid-September onward. So we have to get things in early, let them grow throughout the season, and then they just sort of finish off in the shoulder month in the fall. One of the things I'm going to sow for fall is more fennel. So this garlic's going to come out around mid-July, and that's going to leave an end of the bed here for me to fill with things that can spend the fall and even winter in the garden. This is one of my several hooped beds that I can cover with greenhouse plastic and grow through the winter, or keep food in the garden through the winter. And so whatever goes in here where the garlic was is going to be something that is a fall/winter crop. I've done a little bit of fennel in here. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to end up putting here where the garlic was, but that's something we'll figure out as the season starts to progress. I had these cozy coats on top of where I sowed cucumber seeds to try to warm them up. So there's a couple things that these row covers, these insect row covers, are protecting in this bed. One is the garlic. So we get leek moths that burrow into the garlic. Instead of trying to spray to get rid of those bugs, you could spray BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a bacteria that will eat the larva. Instead of worrying about all that, I'm putting my garlic under a row cover, an insect row cover. Also, cucumbers. Here I struggle so much to grow cucumbers because of the cucumber beetle. We have the striped cucumber beetle here. More south of us, they have a spotted cucumber beetle, but last year I saw both. So the spotted one has started to come up to where I am. They carry diseases with them, like the cucumber mosaic virus. So the cucumber beetles, they won't necessarily kill your plant on their own, although they do damage it. They do a lot of feeding on that plant, and they'll eat the blossoms out so you don't get fruit. The real problem for me is they seem to always, every year, spread cucumber mosaic virus, which will kill the plant. And it's a contagious plant virus that will spread to other plants. The third thing that I'm protecting in here is my kale. Under this insect netting, the cabbage moths, cabbage butterflies, they can't get to them and lay their eggs, which means we don't have those green little caterpillars on our brassicas, on our kale. And then finally, I've just got some lettuce in here, and occasionally lettuce will get bothered by leaf miners. So Everything under here is now totally protected and safe from all of those insects, and all I've had to do is throw some netting over the top. I just remembered what I wanted to put in where the garlic is when that comes out. Remind me, I want to do carrots, fall sowing of carrots that I will do mid-July, and that'll be the last sowing of carrots that I do for the year. So I'm going to do a whole ton of them, and those will be the bulk of our winter carrots. So because this food forest hill here is all wood chips, I keep topping it up with more wood chips. Because of that, if I want to plant a seed in here, I pull the wood chips aside and I add a nice scoop of triple mix. So in there, I'm going to do a Dunja zucchini. I only have 2 left. Future Amy, save the seeds from these. Oh, I don't even have my dibber here. It's over in the shed. The lighting just isn't quite perfect to catch the beautiful colors on these peas, but oh, look at that pea blossom. Pretty excited for these peas. We've been waiting what feels like a long time. Normally we'd be eating peas by now, but this spring, I tell ya. Taking a little bit of break from planting while I drink some iced coffee and contemplate where on earth I'm going to put some things. I got these seeds this year, peanut seeds, thinking I was going to try something new. I grew peanuts like when I was a teenager, a long time ago. So they do work in my climate. Typically they need a long season, so ideally we would have had a warmer spring. I could have started them a few weeks ago, but that's just not the case. And I still think I want to try, although I may end up just having to wait until next year when we have a few new beds in place or a couple of new beds in place. But sometimes I just have to sit and think and look around and wonder where things are going to go. This is also probably a good time to talk about planning the fall garden, because a lot of that has to do with sitting and thinking, looking at your garden, thinking where things are going to go, when certain things are going to come out and make room. Now, really the only thing that you have to start thinking about this early is things like some of those slower growing root vegetables. You may want to be starting parsnips now, for example. Mostly because germination can be tricky, finicky, can take a while. So parsnips are one I'm going to be planning where to put now. And then another one is the fall cabbages, broccolis, cauliflowers. I typically start the fall versions of those like the summer solstice. Now, this is a throwback. I did a whole growing cauliflower and broccoli video back when there was still snow on the ground. And that was for starting your spring cauliflowers and broccolis and cabbages. And for fall, the same challenges apply, and those main challenges are that these plants are pretty temperamental when it comes to temperature swings. They don't love to be in extreme heat. They don't love to be in extreme cold either, although they prefer cool temperatures. But it can be really hard to get them to grow healthy and happy through the summer if you have a really hot summer. And while we had a below average cold spring, it's forecasted that we're going to end up with an above average temperatured summer. So it might be hard on things like brassicas, cauliflowers, broccoli, cabbages, but I'm going to try. I always try, just spare a few seeds, because if you have the perfect conditions in late summer and early fall, then you can get a great harvest of broccoli and cauliflower and cabbages in the fall. I do like to start them not in the ground, but in trays. And that's mostly because I can keep them in the shade. I can keep them in my basement if I need to, if it's a real scorcher outside. Essentially by like mid-July, they're going to be ready to go into the garden. So I'm going to need a place to put them when that time rolls around. I do have my one Brassica bed that was an afterthought this spring. And thank goodness Kim had that afterthought, because that's where most of my spring brassicas ended up thriving. I'm thinking actually that location here, let's go over and I'll show you. This bed here. Bed right now has a bunch of broccolis and cauliflowers, some kohlrabi, and then just a few beets dotted down the middle. These will be probably like all harvested by, at this rate, the end of July. And what I think I want to do in this space this winter is do a proper cold frame. I use plastic row covers exclusively in the garden for my winter growing. And that's not because I feel like that's the best possible solution. It's because it's what I can afford and it's pretty simple to put together. However, Kim has said that a cold frame is on her to-do list. And so I think this would be a great place for it. And I will either bring in some straw bales as the sides and back and then put a glass piece on top, or we'll just build up some insulated side pieces, back pieces. That is south right there. And this is the time of year where this becomes shaded during midday, the peak of the day. But in the wintertime, this is full sun because this is a deciduous tree that has a branch over us. It's a silver maple. So if that's the case, if this is going to be a cold frame winter garden, actually this is the area where I thought we could do like an in-ground, partially in-ground greenhouse. I forget what they're called. A wallapini. So it's like partially in ground. The earth becomes 2 or 3 of the walls of this thing, and then the glass roof is sloped such that the low winter sun comes in at just the right angle and it retains the temperature really well because it's partially underground, insulates it really well. So I've been thinking about one of those here, but also just like the flow, the slope of the land doesn't quite work for that. And then it's here all year round, even in the shade, where it's not going to be as useful. So anyway, it's something I've thought about for this space. But in the meantime, why not test this area out with a cold frame? So that said, I need to think about what I'm going to be doing and thinking at the end of July when I pull these out. Will I have plants ready to go in? And what is best to put in this space if it's a cold frame? I love having winter greens. They're an easy thing to keep going. So kales and spinach and mustard greens, things like that, arugula. This could be a really good spot for parsnips, but they take quite a while. Maybe I'll do carrots here in late July. Carrots and beets. Yeah, carrots and beets, and maybe a couple small kales and spinach. Maybe that. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. Is there anything there that I need to start in advance? No. I can direct sow everything, although with things like spinach, if you're sowing the seed in the end of summer or midsummer, it may be best to do it where you can put it into the shade or you can put it into a cool basement or something so that those seeds will actually germinate, and then you can transplant it out as it gets further into fall. So I typically start my fall and winter spinach like September 1st. Otherwise, I have to start it inside and transplant it out to avoid the heat. I think I've made a decision about the peanuts. Pots. I hate growing things in pots because it means I have to be on top of watering them, and that's just not me. It's not me. It's why I try to grow in harmony with nature, to let nature do all the work. But I really want to grow just a few peanuts this year. I think it'll be really fun for the kids. So I'm going to put them in pots, and then I'm going to figure out where to put the pots. So this is our compost bay area. I've got 3 bays here. This one is just leftover triple mix. When we have bulk materials delivered to our driveway and there's leftovers, I love having a place where I can put it to keep it out of the rain and it's not on our driveway, because many times so far this spring I have come to gather triple mix for pots or whatever. Ideally, I'd be adding perlite or something to these pots to help them be a little more aerated, because this triple mix is a little bit clayey. But to be honest, the last place I grew peanuts was incredibly clay soil and we grew them in the ground. So I'm hoping they'll be okay in triple mix in these pots without any sort of potting mix added to it. But I'm out of stock and I just really want to get this done. But in an ideal world, if you're planting things in pots, you're going to use a potting mix. Can I also just, while I have you over in this corner, show you my deepest shame as a gardener? Okay, the lighting is all wrong for this, but here is mint. And I had Kim build me a 4x4 frame to contain it, and then it was all gravel around here, and we burn anything back with the weed torch, anything that comes out. So it has been really contained here for 4 years, and I haven't seen a problem with it getting away from me. And then we started using this area as a dumping ground for excess soil that we excavated during different projects. And this area is a massive problem because the mint just hopped over the 4x4. I mean, this was just all like cardboard and wood chips. I had sheet mulched this whole area, but then we piled crap on it and the mint is getting loose. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And there's bindweed coming up back here. Oh my God. I need to get some tarp, I think, some black plastic, and try to solarize back here. Okay, I haven't planted the peanuts yet, but I just couldn't walk away from this, so I weeded the mint out from here. I am going to come up with a better way to grow my mint. I thought this was enclosed enough, but the problem was the wood that was back here started to rot away. And in fact, the wood that holds in this wire on the bottom of the chicken run has started to rot. And it's on our to-do list to rebuild this, but it's not for this year. And so, of course, the mint had escaped through the rotting wood, literally through the wood, like the roots grew into the wood. So I did the best I could to pull this away, pulled out the bindweed because we got on top of it, and I haven't seen bindweed in a while, like maybe 2 years, and I found my first bindweed back there in a long time. So I pulled those two plants. As long as you stay on top of it, like diligently, it'll be okay. I think what I need to do is buy silage tarp, just a small piece. I've been trying to not go down that rabbit hole. I use wood chips, I use raised beds, and that's how I get away from weeds. But in this area, I think what I want to do is just cover it with something permeable, but that doesn't let the light through, so it will solarize the weeds, the bindweed, and the mint, which I have to get out of here. And then I can poke a couple little holes in the top and put my pumpkins back there. I think that would be a good idea. Okay, I'm going to do, in this 12-inch diameter pot, I'm going to do 3 peanut seeds. The fact that I ordered 100 peanut seeds says something about my optimism. 1, 2, 3. I actually have to pull these hoops out now because the cold weather is gone. I don't need to cover these tomatoes. I think I'm going to do my soybeans in here, which I will be sowing as soon as they come in the mail. It's another one that I thought I had, and then when I went to look for the seed, I didn't. Soybeans will go down the middle between tomatoes, and I have a few celeriacs. And then I think I'm going to add some more basils along that end. These Emiko Chinese cabbages were my succession sowing of Emiko cabbage, and they're going to come out maybe 2 weeks. They're not going to like the heat, so I'm going to end up harvesting them smaller than those that we grew in the spring. So yeah, I'm going to put some mammoth basil in there. Mammoth basil I tend to sow later in the season. I usually will sow it like mid-May, whereas the other kinds of basil, like Genovese basil, I will start inside in late March, early April, so that I can transplant those plants out as early as I can. But with the mammoth basil, I actually like to use it for a very specific purpose. I want it to be timed for harvesting when my large slicing tomatoes are ripe, because I like to make awesome caprese salads with cool colors of big beefsteak tomatoes, and then I'll add some of those massive basil leaves from the mammoth basil. It's also called lettuce leaf basil. I'll add some of those on top and just layer it. So because I have this very specific culinary use for this kind of basil, I just time it so that it is hopefully going to be ripe at the same time as those beefsteaks. Okay, the last thing that I feel I have to get in the ground today is a succession of lettuce. We have so much lettuce right now, and it's really hard to think when you're looking at just so much lettuce. You're so sick of salads. It's hard to think, I need to plant more lettuce. But by the time the seeds sown today are ready to harvest and put in a salad, these will have long since bolted. I'm actually a little bit late for the succession sowing. It's about to get really hot. And I have some seeds that typically do fairly well in the summer heat. One is Quatre de Saison, and then Paris Island. Where is it? Paris Island I have not grown yet, but West Coast Seeds sells this, and they say it is supposed to be good for summer heat tolerance, so we're going to try that. But once again, I don't know where. Oh, and look, there's seeds on the ground. Dill. Did I plant dill? I don't know if I did a succession of dill yet either. I need to get out of the sun. This is getting miserable for me. And I put a movie on for the kids because they're having a sick day, and they weren't having a sick day. They were just having fun outside, which is great, but they needed to rest. And I need to go and check on them and, yeah, get out of the sun. Thanks for coming along and planting some seeds with me and thinking about the fall garden. It may seem early, but I'm going to keep reminding you throughout June and July and then into August. I'm going to keep dropping reminders of how you want your fall and winter garden to look and the things that you can do to try and make it a success. Also, before I sign off, if you are interested in planning for a fall garden and you want something written down, like a chart that tells you days to maturity and like ideal germination temperatures and how cold the plant can withstand, I happen to have made such a chart. It's on my website. I will put a link down below in the description to that if you'll find that helpful. And also, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like if you enjoyed coming along with me today, and I hope that you'll come and grow with us.